The afternoon sun slanted through my kitchen window, warming the tiles where I stood rinsing lettuce for dinner. 30 years as an ICU nurse had taught me to find peace in small rituals. The rhythm of water, the clean snap of romaine leaves, the hum of the refrigerator. After losing my husband Tom 5 years ago, these quiet moments became my anchor. I was drying my hands when I heard the car pull into the driveway, Brian's black Audi. My stepson. I'd raised him since he was 10, after his father and I married. Now 38. He visited maybe twice a year, always with his wife Jessica in tow, always with that practiced smile that never quite reached his eyes. "Mom," Brian called, letting himself in. He still had his key. Jessica followed, her phone already out, filming. She was always filming. "Just in time for dinner," I said, reaching for another plate. "I wasn't expecting you. We need to talk." Brian's voice had that edge I recognized from his teenage years, when he wanted something. He sat at my kitchen table without being asked, spreading papers across the surface I'd just wiped clean. Jessica perched on the counter, still filming. "This is going to be so good for the feed," she murmured to her phone. "Real family moments, you know?" My stomach tightened. In the ICU, I'd learned to read warning signs. Elevated heart rate. Shallow breathing. The moment before everything changes. This felt like that. "Mom, Jessica and I have been talking." Brian smoothed the papers in front of him. "You're 62. Living alone in this big house. We think it's time to consider your options." My options. I stayed standing, my back to the sink. "Assisted living. We've found a really nice place, haven't we, Jess?" Jessica nodded, still filming. "It has a pool and organized activities. You'd love it." I'd spent 3 decades watching families make decisions for patients who were perfectly capable of making their own. I'd seen it destroy people. "I'm not interested in assisted living. I'm perfectly fine here." "That's the thing, Mom." Brian's voice dropped into that patronizing tone people use when they've already decided you're incompetent. "You don't always recognize when you need help. Last week you called me twice asking what day it was." I had called him once to confirm Thanksgiving plans. But arguing felt pointless when I saw the determination in his face. "We've already started the process," he continued, sliding a paper toward me. "This is just a formality. Sign here." I picked up the document. Power of attorney. Comprehensive. Immediate. The kind that would give Brian control over everything. My home. My bank accounts. My life. "I'm not signing this, Mom." Brian stood, and for the first time, I saw something ugly cross his face. "Don't make this difficult. We're trying to help you." "Help me?" My nurse instincts kicked in. "Stay calm. Assess the situation. By taking control of my finances, someone needs to. You're living in the past, Mom. This house is worth $400,000. And you're barely scraping by on your pension." That wasn't true. I'd been careful with money my entire life. Invested wisely. But I'd learned long ago that people see what they want to see. "I think you should leave." I kept my voice steady. Jessica hopped off the counter. "Babe, show her." Brian pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, and turned the screen toward me. It was a real estate listing. My house. My address, active status, listed 3 days ago. You put my house on the market? It's for your own good. The assisted living facility needs first and last month. We're helping you liquidate assets. I gripped the counter behind me. In 30 years of nursing, I'd kept my composure through codes, through dying patients, through families screaming at me when I couldn't save their loved ones. But this, my own stepson, my home. "Get out." The words came out quiet, deadly. "Mom, get out." They left. Jessica was still filming. I waited until their car disappeared down the street before I let myself sit. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From rage. The kind of cold, clarifying rage that makes you dangerous. I'd spent 30 years advocating for patients who couldn't advocate for themselves. Time to advocate for me. The next morning, I called Maria Chen. We'd worked together 15 years ago when she was a patient advocate before law school. Now she specialized in elder law. Kathy Rodriguez, she said when she answered. I was wondering when I'd hear from you. I saw the listing. You saw it? I make it my business to watch for things like this. How are you holding up? I told her everything. The power of attorney, the listing, Brian's comments about my memory. Don't sign anything, Maria said. And Kathy? Start documenting everything. Save every text, every email. Record conversations if Arizona allows it. We're going to need evidence. Evidence for what? To prove you're competent. To stop the sale. And maybe, she paused, to go on offense. I'd never been afraid of hard work. I pulled out my laptop. The one Brian thought I couldn't use because I was too old for technology. The one I'd used during the pandemic to Zoom with former colleagues and take an online investment course. First, I checked my bank accounts. Brian had joint access to one checking account. A small one I'd set up years ago in case of emergencies. He'd withdrawn $5,000 3 days ago, but he didn't know about the other accounts, the ones I'd set up after Tom died. The investment portfolio. The LLC I'd formed to purchase property. Because here's what Brian didn't know, what nobody knew, that barely scraping by on my pension nurse had been very, very careful with money. Every extra shift I'd worked, every holiday I'd volunteered for double time, every inheritance from my parents, I'd invested it all, including in a medical building 2 blocks from the hospital where I'd worked. I pulled up the tenant list. There it was. Office 304. Leased to Brian Hartwell, Real Estate Services, LLC. Monthly rent, $3,000. Paid through automatic transfer. My stepson had been paying me rent for 3 years and didn't even know it. I called Maria back. I have an idea. Over the next week, I became a detective. My nursing training helped. We're trained to observe, to document, to notice what others miss. I discovered Brian had filed paperwork with the court claiming I had dementia. Filed 3 weeks ago. The hearing was scheduled for next month. I found social media posts from Jessica about their new house coming soon. Photos of my living room with the caption finally upgrading. Heart emojis, celebration emojis. Comments from her followers congratulating them. I tracked down Brian's credit reports. Maria had contacts. What we found was damning. Gambling debts. Credit cards maxed out. A second mortgage on his condo he was 3 months behind on. And then I found something else. Brian's biological mother. Linda Hartwell. Tom's first wife. She'd left when Brian was 5. Abandoned them both. I'd heard she was alive somewhere, but Tom never pursued her for anything. Water under the bridge, he'd said. I found her in a nursing home in Tempe. One of the bad ones. State minimum care. According to the records Maria obtained, Brian was listed as next of kin. He'd placed her there 2 years ago and never visited. I went to see her. Linda was 71, thin, confused. When I introduced myself, she didn't remember me. Didn't remember much of anything clearly. But the staff remembered Brian. Comes once every 6 months. A nurse told me quietly. Just long enough to sign the annual paperwork. Never stays more than 10 minutes. I made a decision then. I contacted the facility director. I arranged for Linda to be transferred to a better home. A good one. With actual care, actual dignity. I paid the first year up front. The director looked at me suspiciously. Why would you do this for someone who's not even your family? Because, I said, it's the right thing to do. And because she is family, she's my stepson's mother. Maria called 3 days before the hearing. Kathy, I need to tell you something. The judge assigned to your case. Patricia Thornan. Okay. Do you remember that name? I thought back. 15 years, a 17-year-old girl. Car accident. Massive internal bleeding. It was supposed to be the end of my shift. But I stayed. 18 hours straight. We almost lost her. Twice. Oh my God, I whispered. Patricia Thornton's daughter. You saved Emma Thornton's life. Does the judge know I'm the defendant? She will when she sees you. Kathy, this could go either way. She might recuse herself. Or she might remember. The courthouse smelled like floor polish and anxiety. Maria met me at the entrance. Professional in her navy suit. I'd dressed carefully. Not too formal. Not too casual. The nice slacks I'd worn to Tom's funeral. A simple blouse. Minimal jewelry. Jessica's been posting all morning, Maria said, showing me her phone. Instagram stories. Heading to court. Finally getting Mom the help she needs. Number family first, number doing the right thing. 200,000 followers watching. Let her post, I said. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined. Brian and his lawyer sat at one table, projecting confidence. Jessica was in the front row, phone out, propped on her purse, filming. We sat at the other table. I'd brought a folder. Maria had 3 boxes of evidence. Brian didn't even look at me. The bailiff called us to stand. All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Thornton. The judge entered, already reading the case file. She was older now, her hair gray instead of brown, but I recognized her immediately. She'd practically lived at the hospital during Emma's recovery. She sat, adjusted her glasses, and looked up at the courtroom. Her eyes swept past Brian, past Maria, and landed on me. I watched it happen in real time. The professional mask, the moment of confusion, the shock of recognition. She froze, literally stopped moving. Her hand went to her glasses, removed them, and she leaned forward. Mrs. Rodriguez? Her voice was barely audible. Kathy Rodriguez? Yes, Your Honor. The courtroom went silent. Even Jessica's phone stayed still. Judge Thornton sat back. Her composure returned, but I could see her hands trembling slightly. Mr. Hartwell, Miss Chen. Approach the bench. The lawyers hurried forward. I couldn't hear what was said, but Brian's lawyer kept gesturing emphatically. Maria stood quiet, letting the judge speak. When they returned, Judge Thornton addressed the courtroom. I need to disclose a potential conflict of interest. Mrs. Rodriguez was the ICU nurse who cared for my daughter 15 years ago. She worked an 18-hour shift and refused to leave until Emma was stable. The doctors credited her advocacy with saving Emma's life. Brian's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we move for you to recuse yourself. Motion noted. Judge Thornton looked directly at me. However, my personal gratitude does not impair my ability to review the facts of this case objectively. I'm going to hear the evidence. If either party feels I cannot be impartial after reviewing all materials, you may renew your motion. Understood. We nodded. Mr. Hartwell, you're petitioning for guardianship of Mrs. Rodriguez based on claims of diminished capacity and dementia. Present your evidence. Brian's lawyer stood. He was polished. Expensive suit. He painted a picture of me as a confused old woman, forgetting appointments, calling with repetitive questions, unable to manage finances. He presented the joint bank account showing my meager balance. He showed photos of my house, calling it cluttered and unsafe. Jessica's testimony was worse. She cried, actually cried, said she loved me, that this was breaking her heart. But they couldn't stand by and watch me deteriorate. She left the stove on last month, Jessica said. We had to rush over. She could have burned down the house. I'd made tea. I'd turned off the stove. But she'd taken a photo of the kettle still on the burner and posted it with the timestamp showing hours later. Except I'd checked the metadata with Maria. The photo was taken 3 minutes after they'd left. When it was our turn, Maria stood. Your Honor, I'd like to call Mrs. Rodriguez to the stand. I walked up calmly, took the oath, sat down. Mrs. Rodriguez, how old are you? 62. And your profession? I was an ICU nurse for 30 years. I retired 3 years ago. Retired. Not disabled, not incapacitated. Correct. Retired. By choice. Maria walked me through my daily life. My volunteer work at the hospital. My book club. My online investment portfolio course. My Zoom calls with grandchildren from Tom's daughter in Seattle. Mrs. Rodriguez, your stepson claims you're unable to manage your finances. Can you tell the court about your current financial situation? This was it. I have a pension from the hospital, Social Security, an investment portfolio worth approximately $1.8 million. And I own a commercial property. A medical building valued at $3.2 million. The courtroom erupted. Brian's head snapped toward me. His lawyer actually dropped his pen. Judge Thornton banged her gavel. Order. The medical building at 4250 Medical Plaza Drive, Maria asked. Yes. And who is one of your tenants? My stepson, Brian Hartwell. He's leased office space there for 3 years. His monthly rent is $3,000. Brian was on his feet. That's impossible. I pay rent to 2. He stopped. His face went pale. To MPD Holdings, LLC, I finished. That's my company. You've been paying me rent for 3 years and didn't know it. Maria presented the documents. The LLC registration. The property deed. The lease agreement with Brian's signature. Bank statements showing the rent deposits. Then she presented the other evidence. The forged power of attorney documents with signature analysis showing they didn't match my hand. Security footage from my bank showing Brian withdrawing money from the joint account while I was at volunteer work. Text messages between Brian and Jessica discussing how much they'd get from selling my house. Your Honor, Maria said, I have one more witness. With the court's permission. A side door opened. Linda Hartwell came in, walking slowly, supported by a care facility aide. She looked better than she had 3 weeks ago. Clean, proper clothes, actually alert. Brian's mouth fell open. Mrs. Hartwell, Maria said gently. Do you know the man sitting at that table? Linda looked at Brian. Something flickered in her eyes. My son. Brian. When was the last time he visited you? She looked confused. I don't remember. The aide spoke up. According to facility records, Mr. Hartwell last visited 14 months ago. For 11 minutes. And who arranged for you to be transferred to your current facility? Linda turned to look at me. The lady. The nice lady. She came to visit. She said I deserved better. That lady is Mrs. Catherine Rodriguez, your son's stepmother. Judge Thornton looked at Brian. Her face was stone. Mr. Hartwell, you placed your biological mother in a state minimum care facility, abandoned her there, and then attempted to do the same thing to your stepmother. Is that correct? Brian's lawyer was frantically whispering to him. Brian just sat there, his face red, his hands clenched. Your Honor, Maria continued. We're not just asking for the guardianship petition to be denied. We're requesting a restraining order prohibiting Brian Hartwell from contacting Mrs. Rodriguez or coming within 500 feet of her property. We're requesting that the house listing be removed immediately. And we're filing a criminal complaint for fraud, forgery, and elder financial abuse. Judge Thornton removed her glasses again, cleaned them slowly. Put them back on. I'm going to make several rulings. First, the petition for guardianship is denied. Mrs. Rodriguez has demonstrated clear cognitive function, financial capability, and independence. Second, I'm granting the restraining order. Mr. Hartwell, you are prohibited from contacting Mrs. Rodriguez or attempting to access any of her properties or finances. Third, I'm referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for Criminal Investigation. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. Mrs. Rodriguez, I want to say something off the record, but it's going to stay on the record because it needs to be said. 15 years ago, you saved my daughter's life. You stayed when your shift was over. You advocated when the doctors wanted to wait. You held my hand when I was falling apart. I never got to properly thank you." Her voice broke slightly. "What was done to you here is unconscionable. You are clearly a strong, capable, and remarkably generous woman. I hope you continue living your life exactly as you see fit, and I hope this court has helped restore some justice today." I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Jessica's phone had captured everything. By the time we left the courthouse, the live stream had been viewed 40,000 times. The comments were brutal. "This is what elder abuse looks like. That poor woman. Her own stepson. Everyone needs to see this. These scammers need to be exposed." Jessica's follower count was dropping in real time. Maria walked me to my car. "Kathy, you did it. We did it. What happens now?" I thought about Linda, finally getting proper care. About my house, still mine. About the quiet life I'd built for myself. Now, I go home, I make dinner, I water my garden, I live my life. And Brian? Brian needs to face consequences. But that's not my job anymore. I raised him. I loved him as my own. But I can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Maria hugged me. "For what it's worth, you're one of the strongest people I know." I drove home through Phoenix traffic. The sunset turning the sky orange and pink. My house was exactly as I'd left it. My garden. My kitchen. My peace. I called Linda that evening. She was settling into her new facility, starting to remember more things. She thanked me, her voice small and uncertain. "You didn't have to do this," she said. "Yes, I did, because someone needed to. And because no matter what Brian did, you're still a human being who deserves dignity." 2 weeks later, Maria called with an update. The district attorney was pursuing charges. Brian's real estate license was under review. Jessica had deleted all her social media accounts after losing 80,000 followers in 3 days. And Brian? Brian had disappeared. His lawyer said he'd left the state. I thought I'd feel triumphant. I thought I'd feel vindicated. Instead, I felt sad. Sad for the little boy who'd lost his mother, who'd never quite learned to trust. Sad for the man who'd let greed consume him. Sad that it had come to this. But I also felt free. I'm 62 years old. I spent 30 years taking care of others. I raised children who weren't mine. I built a life from nothing. I invested wisely. I was kind when I could have been bitter. And when someone tried to take it all away, I fought back. Not because I'm vindictive. Because I finally understood something I'd spent 3 decades trying to teach my patients. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to stand up. You have to say no. Age doesn't make you helpless. It makes you experienced. And experience is power. I spend my mornings now in my garden. My afternoons volunteering at the hospital, mentoring new nurses. My evenings reading, cooking, calling friends. I visit Linda twice a month. We're building something like a friendship, 2 women who both survived Brian in different ways. Judge Thornton sent me a card last week. Her daughter Emma is a doctor now, following in the footsteps of the nurses who saved her life. She wants to meet me. I said yes, because that's what we do. We move forward. We find the light. We help where we can. And we never, ever let anyone tell us we're too old to fight for ourselves. My name is Catherine Rodriguez. I'm 62 years old. I'm a retired ICU nurse. I own property worth over $4 million. I volunteer, I garden, I invest, I live. And I'm just getting started.